Since July, we've been hearing two main themes in Matthew's gospel. Jesus has talked about the kingdom of heaven and what it is like, and he spoke in parables about many various topics. This week and for the next couple weeks, we will hear the Jewish leaders confronting Jesus regarding his teachings. This week's is about governance in the form of taxes. The reading from Isaiah is an interesting pretext about the subject of governance. The prophet says that King Cyrus of Babylon, who was not a Jew, was called by the God of Israel. Cyrus would later return the Israelites to Jerusalem and help in the rebuilding of the temple. The beginning of today's gospel has an unlikely group posing a question to Jesus. The Pharisees are the Jewish leaders in the synagogues, which were located in the villages and cities outside of Jerusalem. They provided Jewish teaching to the people and were known for requiring strict adherence to the 613 commandments of Judaism. The Herodians were allied with the Romans. Caesar kept Herod in power and ensured his rule was unchallenged. In return, Herod enforced the Roman rule on the Jews. The intent of this unlikely group was to trip Jesus up by giving him an either-or question. Is it lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not? If he said it was acceptable to pay the tax to Caesar, he would offend the Pharisees, who taught that the people should only pay tithes and give first fruits and follow other parts of the Jewish law. They believed the people were not subject to the human laws. If Jesus said it was not acceptable to pay the tax, he would offend the Herodians and break the law, thus condemning himself to punishment by the Romans. His answer, of course, is spot on. Whose image is on the coin? Caesar's. Then give to Caesar what is Caesar, and give to God what is God's. Now, even though Jesus answered their question in a way that gave both sides what they were looking for, they were upset because he did not fall into their trap. In fact, later on, he was accused of denying that taxes should be paid. Remember in the account of the Passion of Jesus, when Jesus is in front of Pilate, the Sadducees say he opposes the payment of taxes to Caesar. But Jesus is quoted in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke as saying to pay the tax. The subject of taxes was one of the many false witnesses, allegations that were used against Jesus. St. Paul also addressed this issue in his letter to the Romans. St. Paul said, "For the same reason you also pay taxes, for the authorities are ministers of God, attending to this very thing," in this case, governance. "Pay all of their dues, taxes to whom taxes are due, revenue to whom revenue is due, and respect to whom respect is due, and honor to whom honor is due." Even today, the Catholic Church teaches that it is our civic duty to contribute to the good of society in the spirit of truth and justice, solidarity and freedom, including that it is also morally obligatory to pay taxes, to exercise the right to vote, and to defend one's country. Now, the second part that Jesus says to them is very interesting to the Pharisees and the Herodians. Give to God what is God's. Hopefully this statement doesn't make you as uncomfortable as it did the Pharisees. We have received a great deal from God and also have a lot to give to God. The difficulty, of course, is doing it. When I think of people who gave everything to God, I think of the early church and the thousands of people who died for the faith, martyrs who refused to give up their belief in God and his son Jesus. Sadly, we have people who are being martyred to this day around the world for the same profession of faith. But not everyone is called to wear the crown of martyrdom. How can we give everything to God? I'm reminded of a phrase that we used for a long time: let go and let God. Turning our lives over to God is a radical approach and one that flies in the face of our humanity. We have free will to do what we wish, so why should we ask God to guide us? There are many instances throughout salvation history in the Bible that show us what happens when people do their own thing and ignore God's direction. There are also many instances of what happens when they decide to listen to God and follow his call. When we actually trust God and put our lives in his hand, we will find that things seem to go easier. We need to consecrate into God's hands our families, our jobs, our prayer lives, our friendships, our achievements and failures, and our free will. I'm not saying we stand idly by and see what God does for us. I'm saying we need to place our trust in God and do his will. Fortunately, we have many, many saints who have given us amazing examples of how to give everything to God. St. Faustina of Poland had a near constant conversation with Jesus and the Blessed Mother in her short life. In her diary, she often laments that Jesus was not with her, not speaking to her at some points in her life. Every time she would ask Jesus where he was, he would answer, "Do not fear, I am with you always." In her diary, she wrote a short prayer, "O blood and water which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fount of mercy for us, I trust in you." We pray this at the beginning of the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. A shortened version is included with the image of Divine Mercy, "Jesus, I trust in you." St. Faustina put her whole life and being into Jesus' divine hands. She suffered and died from tuberculosis, but some of her fellow sisters in the convent doubted the extent of her illness because she did not cry out or complain about her suffering. She offered her suffering for souls who needed God's mercy and forgiveness. Another example is St. Ignatius of Loyola, who is the founder of the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits. Ignatius was a nobleman who, after returning from war, gave up everything at Montserrat in Spain to become a priest. He penned the following prayer called Suscipe, which is Latin for release. "Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will. All I have and call my own, you have given to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me." What happens when we truly, honestly pray a prayer like this? In my experience, God does indeed take those things, and he then helps us with doing what he intended us to do with the gifts. This is precisely what St. Faustina did in her life. She gave everything to God. I'd like to combine the two prayers, and it sounds like this. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty. Jesus, I trust in you. My memory. Jesus, I trust in you. My understanding. Jesus, I trust in you. And my entire will. Jesus, I trust in you. All I have and call my own. Jesus, I trust in you. You have given all to me. Jesus, I trust in you. To you, Lord, I return it. Jesus, I trust in you. Everything is yours. Jesus, I trust in you. Do with it what you will. Jesus, I trust in you. Give me only your love and your grace. Jesus, I trust in you. That is enough for me. Jesus, I trust in you.